Hi, this is Simon Obstell and welcome to another tutorial for Apple Motion, and this is the second part of this tutorial in which we are looking at building our own green screen here. So let's get down to it. So this is where we left things last time. We'd created our basic key, but we were left with this very obvious problem of all this green contamination of the edges. So that's what we're going to look at in this part, how to despill that green. So the way I'm going to do it is I'm going to take this matte group and I'm going to duplicate that. And I'm going to call this despilled foreground. And let's open it up. Let's turn it on. So the one thing we're going to do here is we're going to take those two filters that we've added, negative and levels, and we're going to delete them because we don't need those for this purpose. So now what we have got is a map for wherever the green is greater than the red. So this is going to be really useful to us. So we can use this to subtract from the green channel of the foreground plate. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make a new group inside this group. So object new group, and I'm going to drop both of these into here. And let's call this spill map. So then what we need to do is we need to split the image into its component channels. We haven't done that here because we've actually put, for example, here we put the green channel into all the channels, but what we want to do is something slightly different. So let's come back into the foreground here and let's clone our main footage and let's drag it out to the top here. So the way we're going to separate the channels is again with the channel mixer. But if we come over here, whereas before we turned on the monochrome switch to get that, which puts the red into each of the channels, we're not going to do that this time. We're just going to, in this case, turn off the green and the blue, and you can see we're left with the red channel only. There's nothing in the other two channels. So let's call this clone R for red, and let's duplicate it. So right-click, duplicate, and let's call this G for green. And let's come back over to the filters, turn off the red, obviously, and turn on the green. And let's duplicate it one more time, right-click, duplicate, and call this B for blue. Come over to the filters, turn off the green, and turn on the blue. So there you go, we've got our three separate channels like that. So what I need to do is I need to put the green below the red. Like that. The green needs to be on the bottom again because we're going to despill that. So I'm going to take both my blue and my red, command clicking them to select them both, and I'm going to set their blend mode to add. And you can see that in the process we've now added those three channels back together again. We've got our original image back. But now we can take our spill map and we can move it above the green like that, and then we can use it to subtract the excess green. So let's set its blend mode to subtract. And now you can see the difference that makes. If I turn off the spill map, you can see we've done a lot to suppress that green. If you look for the numbers here on the backing there, you can see that at no point is the green higher than the red. Whereas if I turn it off, obviously you can see that the green up there is 0.9, whereas the red is 0.3. So that's what we've made a pretty good start. So there's a number of things we can now do. We can just jump into the spill map here. And when we were looking at the matte, we didn't bother to use the blue. But I'm actually going to turn it back on again because I think we can actually use the blue in this case. So turn it back on again. And the color's gone absolutely weird. But if we set the blend mode of this to darken. So this is what would normally be called the minimum blend mode. So you're taking the minimum of these two values. So the minimum of the blue and the red. So this is all way too much. But if we knock this back to something like 35%, and I turn that on and off, you can see we're suppressing some of that yellow and we're getting a slightly better result. We can maybe even go up to 40% with that. So there we go. There's our despilled foreground. We haven't quite finished with it yet. I will come back and do some fixing of that. But now we can close that on down and we can drag this into the foreground group in here underneath the clone layer, which is providing the matte, and above our original footage. And now you can see the difference that's made. So if I turn that off, That's where we started this part of the tutorial. That's now what we've got. So now we've got a composite without all that offending green in it. So this is the basic method for creating spill suppression, but there are many different variants on this technique, which are well beyond the scope of this tutorial series. However, in part 2, I will be actually showing you how we can use our spill map to despill the image in a different way. So that should be quite interesting. And there's plenty more that we're going to be talking about that I know you're going to find interesting. So I hope you can join me.